From the kitchen of the cabin, a look at the games that made us who we are in Ben and Steve's Advent Calendar. Well, Steve, here we are, 19 of December, and we're here with another Splotter game. And it doesn't surprise me in this. It's amazing. You have chosen my two favourite Splotter games. And this, I think, as a Splotter game, is on the other side of their sort of complexity radar. It's certainly on the other side of their length radar. And that sounds sexy, doesn't it? A length radar. But it is, I think, every bit as rigorous as Antiquity. I don't quite like it as much, but my God, this is a game that is every bit as rigorous, every bit as brutal, and every bit as fun. And I think, actually, as a Splotter title, this delivers more fun than any other of their games, I think. Take it away, Steve. Tell us about Bus.
Sadistic, I think, is the word that you're looking for. As sadistic as public transportation on buses is in the part of the country I'm in right now, in the U.S. I was a bit reluctant to choose two Splotter games for this series because I thought I should have a more diverse selection, but I kept coming back to this one. So yeah, I would agree with you. Antiquity is like the 400-pound gorilla of Splotter games. I mean, Antiquity or Roads and Boats, but I mean, I think Antiquity is just like far more conceptually mature and, you know, more likely to be played as well. Bus is fascinating to me because it's like their first game or their first proper game. It's very old. I think they designed it when they were still in university, and yet everything is there. Everything that Splotter is about as a publishing partnership is there from the very beginning. As you're saying, the cruelty, the remorselessness, like the fact that you can't make any mistakes, but like the tightness, the strategic depth, and the quirky humor. I mean, it is actually like the sort of, you know, the sadism, I think, is what's funny about it, right? When you realize just how the game is constructed, like you can't help but laugh. You know, a good score in this game is like 6 points. If you get 10, you're like a grandmaster probably. I don't want to say it's exactly chess-like. I think maybe, I mean, we use this metaphor too often. I like think of the Great Zimbabwe as like Splotter chess, but this game, I don't know. I don't know what I would compare it to. It's got the sort of network building component that a lot of their later games have, and it looks sort of whimsical. It's got this like sort of whimsy, like Food Chain Magnate has this as well. And then you play it, and like it's not a whimsical experience. It is difficult. It's tense. It's like, I mean, in a way, it's kind of a social deduction game without having a social deduction component, because it really matters what order you take your actions in, and you can like do as many actions as you want on your turn. You can spend them all up front if you want. You've really got to like parcel them out. You've really got to like guess what the other players are going to do, because if you don't watch out, they'll just steal all your points. Like there just aren't that many opportunities to score in this game. So what I'm trying to say is, somehow at like the very beginning of their career, they nail it. And I think they continue nailing it throughout their career. You continue to see echoes of Bus in their other games. And we're just fortunate that for whatever reason, Capstone decided to reprint it a couple of years ago. And like another generation of gamers can appreciate it. And it's just like maybe a testament to their influence and how their games really could be commercial if they wanted them to be, that Capstone was able to choose this game to reprint out of all of like you know, they could have reprinted any like older game or like any Splotter game, and they chose this one, and it still works, and it's brilliant, and it seems to even be like, I don't know, already hard to find. I'm looking at the Geek Market right now on Board Game Geek, and the 2019 English edition, $180, 150 pounds. It's like absurd how sought after these games are, even the ones that have just only recently been republished. Someone is trying to sell their English edition for $245, and I bought this for like, I don't know, was whatever it was, $40 at Essen. It's amazing. I mean, this duo, this company, they're just so offbeat and so on their own spectrum.
And so what's brilliant is Splotter don't give a fuck. And Bus is a sort of quintessence of that. Firstly, you can do as many actions as you want, but you have a limited number of actions. So if you could do all of your actions in the first 2 rounds if you wanted, but then you don't get to do anything else for the rest of the game. Firstly, that's brilliant. And secondly, it takes a sort of board game archetype, route building, and then it just says, oh, by the way, you can freeze time. What?
Yeah, right.
Nothing else in the game points to it. And it sounds like it should be this, thing that makes the game absurd and ruins it. But there is such a cheek there. There is such a sort of wink to the audience of, games aren't really about theme, are they? They're actually about mechanisms. And then this mechanism's great. And we're not going to try and retrofit it with some sort of boring pedestrian kind of thematic nod. No, you can freeze time. Fuck it. You can freeze time. And it's just that playful, willful character of Splotter's designs that make them such a joy. And I think as I say, I keep going back to simplicity. When their goal is to be as simple as possible, I think is when they really shine, because they strip back and what comes out is a real mischief and a real desire to have players cause mischief, right?
Yeah, and it really puts paid to the idea that board games like somehow have to be, I don't know, realistic, right? This is magical realism. And these guys, like you say, they just do whatever the fuck they want because it's their company. They are self-publishers. They answer to nobody. And I think that gives them this license. And they've developed enough of a following that they can get away with it, because whatever game they publish, every single copy will eventually be sold. And they're not trying to like make millions of dollars and sell like hundreds of thousands of them. They just make games that they would like to play as like a side hustle, essentially, because this is not their primary source of income. And you know what? The hobby is the better for it, because we get these designs. Like in very few other circumstances could you imagine games like this being produced, because like the demands of the marketplace are just too onerous. But these guys are off on the side deciding that we're going to make a game that looks like it's about public transportation, but actually, is this like abstract network building game that has an action called Vroom, and in which you can, for whatever reason, freeze time because you feel like making a trade-off against points at the end of the game for being able to fuck over everyone at the table now. And you don't ever see it coming. And when it does, God, does it ruin your day. But it ruins your day in the best possible way.
And like every art form, right, there's always this feeling that the people out on the avant-garde end up feeding into the mainstream. And it's never more so than with Splotter. And I understand that many people are intimidated by Splotter games, but I want you now, Steve, to tell them why, of all the Splotter games, if they feel intimidated they should give a go, why it should be Bus.
Well, first of all, I would say put your ego aside. You don't have to be good at every game you play. And if you're intimidated by them, I would be more intimidated by all of the rules-heavy Silver Age games we're always talking about, these super heavy, unnecessarily unwieldy Euro games where it's like a hat on top of a hat on top of a hat. I think those games are intimidating because there's just too much to remember. You will never be good at these games. And like I often say, I really feel deep down, you could never, like the decision space is so infinite, you could never play test them enough to prove that they aren't broken. It's complete opposite with Splotter games. I think they're intimidating because they're difficult. Intimidating in a similar way that like chess and Go might be intimidating. But they're still fun. They're fun because although these guys are brilliant game designers and they are doing something like totally unique, at the same time totally rigorous, it's like it's somehow that twisted, dark, evil sense of humor that they have that is like the substrate to their designs That means that when you sit down and you're struggling with their games and suffering, it's still fun, because you know what? Everyone at the table is struggling and suffering along with you. And the feeling you have at the end of a splatter game, it must be like akin to like the feeling that you have as like a professional sports team, or maybe like surviving a war or something. You may be like opposed to the other players, but there's like somehow like this solidarity, this like, let's say, perverse solidarity, and having just gone through that experience, and winning by 1 point and just like barely eking it out, and like, God, like that's an achievement to be proud of if you can do it in a splatter game. But even if you don't, you figured out this difficult mechanism. It was you versus the game, and you were there and you did it. And I think Bus is the one that will get to the table more often than any others, and it has like just enough accessibility, even though it's a splatter game, that you can get non-gamers into it. I would stand on that. Get Bus. It's going on the Ben and Steve holiday wish list, but don't pay $245 for it on Geek Market.
Thank you for listening to this show and indulging our overweening nostalgia. If you would like to support the show, you can do that by going to patreon.com/5G4D. And we both wish you a very Merry Christmas.